Hello, yes, people. Welcome to the first episode of Voices by Care by Train. I've got my co-host Sarah, and today we're joined by Marcus Lowe. Marcus, it's great to
Hi.
have you on today's call. How are you? You well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolute pleasure. So we did speak previously, and we off camera basically. But from what we understand is that you lead a team doing, vital work in children's residential care. And that stands out about inspiration is the sense of stability and belonging. So you've created an opportunity for essentially young people. And to give people context, you work for a company called Inspiring Care.
Inspirations.
Inspirations Care. Perfect.
Yes.
Amazing. And what's your position there?
So my current position is Referrals and Commissioning Manager. It's a bit wordy, but what that basically means is I manage and I oversee new children moving into our homes and kind of oversee the relationship between the provider, us, and the local authority in kind of maintaining placements, getting the right support for the children in the homes if that's needed, and yeah, just building relationships with local authorities.
That's incredible. And I wanted to start off in terms of like your own journey. So what first drew you to this particular field?
Well, my story is I'd say it's quite non-traditional. So I was mostly in hospitality from a very long time in my teenage years. I was in hospitality. I was working at a restaurant and bar, managing that. Everything was okay. I ended up doing Camp America. So I went over to America twice and worked in summer camps and had the best time working with children out there. And I was offered a position over in America. We'd gone through the whole process, and then about 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, there was a complication with the visa, and that ended up falling through. So it didn't happen, and the restaurant I was working at closed down immediately due to kind of financial constraints. And I had a bit of a kind of moment where I needed to make a decision on what path I was going to go down with my life. And I always knew I wanted to work with children. So I joined an agency because it was really hard to get into residential back then. I joined an agency not really knowing what it was. And I remember my first ever shift was at this home in Leicestershire. I remember turning up at this house feeling very confused and not really sure what was going on, and met the children, and it just went from there really. I immediately went temp to perm. Stayed with that organisation for 3 years, progressed to a senior role, and then moved over to Inspirations as a deputy manager. Then became a registered manager of my own home, led my own home for about a year and a half before stepping back down into a deputy role because of kind of personal circumstances in my life. Just had a new family and everything was really busy. And then the opportunity to move across into the commissioning side of things was open. So I jumped at it really. And I've been doing this now for just over a year. So it's gone really well.
That's absolutely lovely. That's absolutely incredible.
It's nice to hear, I think, sorry, Josh, it's nice to hear that your journey started with working, in the ground and working with the staff who, you now look after. So you've got that experience. And I feel like you can bring that level of understanding. Yeah. So, it's good to hear that.
Yeah, I think that's relatability is really important. It's
Yeah.
in a lot of sectors outside of residential, people come in and become managers because they're good at their job or they're the kind of best person for that job, but don't necessarily always have the experience on the ground level. Doing that and building up, I think, gives you that relatability. People can look at you and go, you've been here, you know what this feels like. We can have those conversations where people can relate to you and your experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
nice. So Marcus, when you think back to the first home that you managed, what do you know now about leadership and consistency that you wish you knew back then?
It's a really good question. I learned a lot. So I've been in a senior role. So in our sector, you kind of have, excuse me, you kind of have the support worker level where your responsibilities are the children. Your sole responsibility is the children, and you're kind of on the ground working with them, spending time with them, and gradually, as you kind of move up the ladder, you move slightly further away from the children each time you move up. you kind of go into a senior role where you begin leading the team on a day-to-day basis, making small decisions about what the day's going to look like, who's going to take this young person to school, who's going to take this, settle this young person at night. But when I moved over to Inspirations, it was kind of, it was a big shock because I came over as a deputy manager, and it kind of intertwines those two roles where you still spend time on the floor working with the young people, but there are the managerial responsibilities. And I only did that for about 6 months before I felt confident that, I can do this. I can run my own home. And there were a lot of challenges. I think the biggest challenge was that I'd come into an established team that had developed some quite not great habits. The dynamic in the team was quite fractured. There'd been a big change in management. There'd been 3 managers within the space of a year. So them building trust in me as a manager coming in, as somebody that they didn't really know that well, was a difficult challenge. I think looking back, maybe I jumped in too soon. Maybe I thought I was ready too soon. Perhaps got a bit more experience as a deputy before I went into being a manager.
Did you find, just out of curiosity, obviously we all know, well, not everybody will know this, but us here, we know that the Ofsted requirements are for staff and for managers especially to be trained within the level 3 or 4, level 5. Did you find that, and did you do your qualification, and how did that kind of support, or did it support? Was there anything that kind of lacked in when you were in that deputy role or the management role?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yeah, with regard to the regulatory requirements. So I did my level 4. So you can either do a 3 or a 4. I did the 4
Yeah.
apprenticeship back in my previous company, and then when I became a manager, I started my level 5.
Yeah.
And I'll be really honest. I'll be really honest about the qualifications, not to dismiss them, but I didn't feel that I learned very much from it. I feel like I learned much more from being hands-on
Yeah.
and learning on the job and learning from peers and colleagues from their experiences and their skills. So for me, the qualification was a supplement. It was a requirement that I needed to complete. And for me, the level 5 was quite similar to the level 3. It was just applying those managerial kind of aspects to the work, essentially. I do think for some staff, it can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
I think for new staff, I do remember the level 3 and 4 being quite insightful around legislation, understanding safeguarding and child development, and
Yeah.
a lot of those things that are included within that qualification are really beneficial. I just didn't feel like that was the best way I learned.
Yeah, of course. If you could go back now and kind of tailor the apprenticeship to your needs, or think about what it could have added that would have made it more beneficial for you, what would you say that would be?
That's a good question.
I've put you on the spot now.
I think the qualification is very theory based. It's very. I think it needs to include more hands-on. A lot of it was reflecting on experiences and talking about things that I'd done in the home, as opposed to learning anything. It was about me looking back and going, well, this situation I learned from this X, Y, and Z from dealing with that. That's a tricky one. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that, because I do feel like as a sector, the qualifications that are currently available, I think it's widely kind of considered that they're not necessarily fit for purpose anymore. I think the sector's moved a long way. We've become a lot more therapeutic. Residential's kind of taken a step forward in terms of becoming really trauma informed and using PACE and all therapeutic techniques. That maybe the qualification should have a little bit more focus around trauma informed practice and therapeutic care, to kind of give staff members that underpinning of what that means. I think would be really beneficial.
No, it's good things to think about, because as you said, obviously the sectors have come a long way and there hasn't been a lot of reform or change in terms of the qualifications. There's still a lot of, as you said, focus on the theory and, the off the job and the assessment based things. A lot of it feels like kind of tick box exercises, but it's how are the staff benefiting from doing this, and how can we show that they will benefit? So yeah, no, that's definitely something to think about.
And Marcus, one thing, of course, from doing research, one thing that I feel like I saw is that, it's in relations to inspirations is how much it feels like a family setting rather than, some people would call it like an institution.
Yeah.
So what goes into that in creating that kind of feel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love inspirations. Not, I don't just say that because I work here and I kind of feel like I have to say that, but it's an organization where the minute you step foot through the door, you feel part of something. My previous experience was in a big company, the biggest children's home company in the country, that's got 200 odd homes. And you were very isolated. Excuse me, you were very isolated, and you kind of felt like you couldn't make a difference because you were one person. You were a small fish in a really, really, really big pond. At Inspirations, I think we hold those family values in the sense that our homes are really close together. So we've kind of created these like hubs. So we've currently got homes in two regions at the moment. So we've got our Leicestershire region and then we've got our Northamptonshire region. And we've got two sets of homes within those hubs that have kind of created like a Leicestershire family and a Northamptonshire family, but also with that, an Inspirations family. I think the rate we grew was really quite organic. When I joined Inspirations, we had four homes, and over the 5 years I've been here, we've now got 11 homes. We've not rushed it. We've not pushed to, drive and make money. But I think ultimately it comes from the top down. The director of the organization is he started very much the same as me. So it was his mum's company before, and he worked in the homes as a support worker. He became a registered manager. He's got that on the ground experience of working with the children, and it is his genuine passion that the aim behind Inspirations is to provide the best children's homes in the country. It starts with a vision. That's our vision. We want to be the best children's homes in the company. The right people. So when I joined, there was new operational managers that came also into the organization that I think have driven this forward with their values and holding the Inspirations values at heart. Yeah, it just feels like a community. We do lots of things that bring us all together. Just an example, we do a sports day, and we've done it now for 3 years, 4 years maybe. In the summer, where all of the homes come together and we kind of take over this field nearby and we hire a food truck and we put games on and all the kids come along and they get medals, they get prizes, we have food, and we just have a really great time. Like it's really incredible to bring everyone together and kind of be that big family. It's amazing.
No, it's amazing. And the fact that it comes from the core, like there's actually the energy that you have towards it. It speaks volumes, and I feel like that's a foundation that you have in and through Inspirations. But I wanted to ask a question just in relation to like training. So training often it determines how well those values will carry through in terms of like our day-to-day actions. So how do you approach training across all of your teams?
Yeah, training's a really good one. So a lot of training done in residential is provided by external providers, and we are not too different from that. We do have external providers that come in and do our safeguarding training, our health and safety training, the kind of mandatory essentials for the position. We were very particular when we chose them, and we kind of had options of multiple ones, and we picked the ones that best aligned with us. I think another thing is that we do a lot of in-house training. So the people with experience that know what they're doing, training people. So some of our registered managers will do in-house training. I think one of the biggest changes was around our behaviour support. So in children's residential, we're required to have behaviour support training. So how we safely respond to challenging behaviour, physical intervention, using physical intervention. And about 2.5 years ago, we made a decision to train 6 of our own trainers in the homes. So people that were managers, people that were deputy managers, that knew the children, knew the company, knew the homes. I was one of those, so quite fortunate enough to be able to deliver training to people myself. And I very much hold the values of Inspirations whenever I deliver my training, and make sure that comes across to every new person that I train, because it's a mandatory training that everyone has to do. So I know it's my 2 days to tell everybody about this is what we want to do. And I think that's really important. Having people that feel the values of the organisation, delivering the training to those new people.
Yeah. Do you see it as something that builds culture and confidence over time?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's I think it builds culture in the sense that that's a really good question. That's kind of stumped me.
I
I
guess what
thought,
I can see off the back of some previous conversations we've had offline, I remember you saying that your staff retention, it's good, which is a struggle that the sector has in total. Kind of, would you say that the training and values that you guys have at the core is what benefits that? That might be easier for you to answer.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. The quality of the training is really important to give people the skills to be able to be equipped to do their job. I think one of the biggest challenges within residential care is staff having the ability to be resilient and bouncing off challenges and experiences that they face in the home, especially working directly with the young people and managing those behaviours as a parent would. I suppose in our context, it's maybe a little bit more extreme, but absolutely giving the staff those tools and the skills and those continuous refreshers of those tools and skills. So the fact that we have those in-house trainers means that if there's a home that's struggling or they're experiencing a lot of challenge, we as trainers can go into the homes during team meetings or just drop-in sessions and kind of do one-to-one coaching or kind of really pick apart some of the challenges that they're facing and try and give them solutions on how to work through those. And that gives people confidence, knowing that they can pick the phone up to me and say, Marcus, I'm really struggling with this young person. We've had X, Y, and Z incidents. Can you come over and support and help us? Or could you come over and speak to the young person and kind of try and help them out? And yeah, it does absolutely build that confidence in people. I think going back to staff retention, I think that's a really tricky one. So, I think as an organisation, I think we have better staff retention perhaps than other organisations. Not to say that we don't have a problem with staff retention, because I think in the sector, I think it's a national problem in trying to find the right people and keep those right people in such a challenging job, because it's a really challenging job.
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think helps people stay with you?
Opportunity helps people stay, feeling valued, feeling part of something. So I think that we obviously have a lot of different homes that have their own culture within those homes that hold the inspirations, values, and feeling part of a home was one of the biggest reasons that I stayed in my first place. I felt part of a team. I felt part of the culture of we were all working together through really difficult challenges. And when you've got that camaraderie with your colleagues, everyone on the same page, it makes it a lot easier. Opportunity, being given the opportunity to do side projects or take on new roles in terms of things like training. We've recently trained 20 staff members in therapeutic life story work. And the opportunity to be able to do that qualification is phenomenal, and be able to share children's stories with them when you do this piece of work, something that for me as a staff member, I'd be like, oh my God, I want to do that. We're constantly given these, different opportunities for staff to take on different challenges and run with things if they want to run with things.
Yeah. And often with challenges, the other side to challenges is there's like success and there's success stories. So a lot of leaders have a few stories that stick with them. Now, is there any moments that remind you of why, doing what you do really matters?
It's a good question. It's really hard. It's really hard in this sector. I'll give some nuance before I talk about my experience. I think one of the things that people really struggle with in this sector is seeing reward. A lot of the times when we work with our young people, you don't always see the rewards. We're aiming to impact them in their future lives. We might not see any sort of significant changes in the moment. It might be 4 or 5 years down the line, once they've moved on from us, that the work we've done with them impacts them, which is really hard for people to kind of navigate, and they want to see positive change immediately. Some of the young people that I've worked with, let me think of one. We've had young people with us for, upwards of 4 to 5 years. Before they came to us, it was non-engagement in school, really struggling with socializing, really, really high level behaviors and incidents. And this one young person specifically who I worked with as a deputy manager in my first home that I worked at in Inspirations, he's still with us after 5 years. He speaks for the Leicestershire County Council, Children in Care Council, and he will go and do talks at these kind of events and talk about his experiences in care and share that with other young people who are in care to kind of help them better their lives. And there's a part of me that feels like I helped do that. Even if it was a really, really small part of that, I was able to help do that for him. And it's really incredible.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I always like a story. The story helps me, not even just myself, I think even for listeners and people, it just helps them piece things together and get an understanding of the type of character that you are, and also the organisation that you are part of as well.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. But in terms of like looking ahead, right? Of course, this year has gone super fast. You probably would agree with me. But is it? I know you don't have a crystal ball as well. But Sarah, you probably could answer this as well. But what changes do you see coming for like children's residential care in the near future?
Good question. There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. So I guess as part of my role at the moment is researching, finding out what those changes are going to look like and how that's going to impact us as an organisation and what we do. There's a lot of stuff, nationwide where, we're talking about the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill that's coming into play. That's got some real positives in there with a real focus around. So in children's residential, we have to be registered with Ofsted. There are a small number, I say a small number, there are a number of people who are opening up what's known as illegal homes and registered provisions that are charging local authorities inordinate amounts of money to look after some of the most challenging and vulnerable children in the country. And this piece of legislation is going to give Ofsted more power to be able to shut those homes down and fine the providers, because I think the last kind of count in Ofsted's last piece of research, I think it was the last year, 23 to 24, they had reports of over 1,000 illegal children's homes that were being opened and being run by these providers who, some good and some with the intention of becoming regulated and registered, but some with the idea of looking after some of the most vulnerable children and charging the local authority and the taxpayer an inordinate amount of money to look after these really, really vulnerable children and kind of just abuse the system, essentially. So that piece of legislation is going to hopefully give them more powers to shut them down, which I'm optimistic about. I could talk about this for ages. I mean, how much more? So, do you want more?
I think something, and you can kind of chime in on this as well, Marcus, something that I was speaking to a provider about the other day. It kind of links into what you're saying about opening homes and those homes who open illegally but want to become registered, things like that. It's kind of on the other end of the scale. I've heard that the new regulations on timeframes for opening a home with Ofsted is going to take longer. So at the moment, I think the guidance is 6 months plus, but they're now looking at it being 6 months to 18 months. So that's, that's a long time. And we've both got experience with Ofsted. It can be however long a piece of string is, you don't know. So I think you've got the challenge of those homes who, have got good intentions, but it's going to take a long time for them to actually be registered, compared to those homes who go through the right channels and they don't get young people in until they are registered. There's going to be that time up to nearly 2 years where they're not going to be able to have the young people in. So I think that's going to be an additional challenge on the sector for employers like yourselves who, are doing it right and want to help more children. Yeah, that's something that I heard, and I don't know kind of if you guys are looking into the future of opening new homes and if that's going to be a challenge. But yeah, that has got me thinking about how much harder it's going to be.
It's really, yeah, it's fact. That's a fact. You know, Ofsted have come out recently and said that it's looking on the edge of about 18 months from a point of a
Yeah,
home register, you know, applying to register to then being open, which, you know, with children in care numbers constantly growing, foster care is constantly dwindling. There are inordinate amounts of children coming into residential, but also there are children that are in these illegal homes that need to have regulated home. They need to have regulated care. It's a barrier to, you know, providing these children that are in these illegal homes with that regulated care. Yeah, we've, you know, I think also to that is the kind of lack of clarity between different people in the registration process. There's a need at the moment for smaller provisions. So a lot of providers will open 3, 4 bed children's homes, but there are a lot of children that struggle to live alongside other young people.
yeah,
So Ofsted are prioritising registrations for 1 bed homes or 2 bed homes that can provide that more personalised care to those kind of really complex children. And we recently had a planning application denied on a solo home, stating that there was no identified need for this type of home within this type of area, which is baffling when, you know, the county that we live in are screaming out saying we have 15 children living in illegal children's homes and we need them to be in regulated homes, but
yeah.
we just don't have the right homes for them. So yeah, there's different departments kind of working against each other within there.
Yeah. Leading on from that then, where do you think that the focus should be? Should it be more leadership development, staff capability, or kind of more support?
I think staffing, I do think staff capability is the way that we need to go down. I think there needs to be, you know, thinking about maybe some sort of national recruitment drive or some sort of a big focus around reform of children's residential staff training and bringing people into the sector, because there are some fantastic people that have never done this job before that step into our homes and become managers within 3 years because they're just the right person for this job. And it's how do we find those? How do we attract those people? How do we keep those people? How do we remove as many barriers as possible for bringing them into our sector and keeping them in our sector? It's going to be a big challenge. It's going to be a big challenge.
Absolutely. I think for me, thinking about that, it's getting the messaging out there of the industry, because I never heard about this industry until I started working within training. I never knew much about what children's residential care looks like. I never really, obviously I knew that there was care homes and things, you know, growing up, there was your programs like Tracy Beaker, you know, it's not a great representation, but I think
No.
there's not enough representation out there for what the job is, or given or someone who doesn't know about the industry to say, because there's probably loads of people out there who would be great at the job, as you say, they just don't know about it. So yeah, that would be my kind of thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that's fact. You know, it's and it gets a really bad rep as well. Children's residential gets a really bad rep in the media. You know, in local communities, it's the, you know,
Yeah.
I've met neighbours of children's homes when I was working in one as a manager, and they kind of said, you know, that prison over there, and I'm like, whoa, you know, this is a home for children that need it.
Yeah.
And going back to the illegal homes, news articles where they're, you know, one provider charges X council £25,000 a week to look after this child in an illegal home, and it kind of really presents it as a bad thing. I think we're moving away from that now. I think people, you know, especially in the research world, there's a lot of research now about the benefits of children's residential and how it can be a really positive thing for children. It can be the right thing for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. How do we get it out there and, you know, make people aware? Because I didn't know about it either until I came into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this could be a good kind of platform to just, you know, as we've done today, just get the conversation flowing, hear your story, because I think that's probably what's lacking as well. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to tell the story. And for yourself, you worked in hospitality. It was completely the opposite of what you did and what you now do. So I think it's great to get those kind of stories out there so people can see that it's doable. They can move into that role. So, yeah, conversations like this and getting this kind of message out there, I think that could hopefully help. That's the aim.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Agreed. We might have a part 2 after this as well.
We could talk for hours.
100%. Well, Marcus, look, I want to say, look, this has been a great conversation. Your perspective on balancing structure with, I would say, genuine, like it actually is genuine care. It really does stand out. So again, thank you so much for sharing your insights and what you're doing with Inspirations as well. And for people that wanted to find out more information about Inspirations, where could we direct them to go? Who would be the best person to speak to?
Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn, Inspirations Leicestershire. Our website is inspirations-ogb.co.uk. It's currently in development. We're currently changing our website and it's looking a lot better than what it used to be. But that's got lots of information about what we do and kind of how to apply for a job and kind of what it is we do. So have a look and yeah.
Amazing. I'll link that below.
Thank you.
But yeah, Marcus, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
All right.